All right, and we're in. Let's
Hello.
do it. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Kay's eating over there.
Yeah, it's dinner time for me.
Oh, crap. I forgot to do the thingy. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So, first, let me introduce everyone. Firstly, on my right, we've got Illuvium, who's been on the show many, many times now, and he's an avid Illuvium investor, a proposed Illuvium whale. He's got a lot of insight into the financial side of things and the financial side of Illuvium, the ILV token, as well as an interest to play the game. So big welcome to him. Big thanks. He's also big in the French community. So if you're coming from there, welcome. And I hope our English is pretty good so that you guys can understand us okay and things like that. Down below me, we've got Kyle Willson. He hasn't been on the show before. He is an avid VV content creator, and he's also been doing some more Illuvium content lately. So he's getting into the Illuvium space more and more. I'm happy to see him here, happy to see him join the community. It's going to be really exciting to have him on the channel as well. And we're going to have some awesome discussions today for sure. And lastly, we have Hello K, which you guys have seen on the channel before as well. He is one of the founders of Caloscope. I don't know if we'll really talk about Caloscope much today, but he's also a VV content creator, and he hasn't done a heap of Illuvium content yet, but that's what we're here to convince him to do, to get straight into Illuvium and get way more into it if he has the time, of course. All right, so big thanks to everyone for joining me on the channel today. I really appreciate you giving up your time for me.
Good to be here.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks for the introduction, and pleasure being on the channel today.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's, as always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to all these channels. They're all in the description, like right near the top there. And as always, there's going to be a short Q&A at the end of this episode. So if you guys have some questions to tell, I probably won't read the chat heaps until then. So save your questions till the end. Throw them in there. It's going to be awesome. Definitely looking forward to it. Quick question to Kyle and Kay and maybe Eleanor. Did you guys get a Black Panther today?
Man, I did not. I'm sad. I didn't get it on the drop.
Yeah, I missed it on the drop, and then I missed it on the 4-minute rebound. But on the 8-minute rebound, I hit a mid number 1992 uncommon, which is apparently the worst one right now. I was like, oh, I was planning on completing the set eventually anyway. So eventually I'll pick up the rest.
Yeah. I just bought one on the secondary just like an hour ago for like 100, which is pretty good. First appearance common. Didn't have much to say about that. But yeah, look, I was trying to get up for the drop, but I must have mistimed my alarms or something. I don't know what happened there. I think I got up an hour late.
It's the worst.
Someone doesn't really doesn't like the intro music. I can definitely change it. Okay, so the first topic we're going to jump into today, well, I'll quickly go over the 3 topics we kind of got lined up for today. We're going to talk about the macro trend with NFTs and NFT gaming. We're going to go over Illuvium and its potential as the first AAA game on the blockchain. That's certainly a really big deal to a lot of people, so we're definitely going to have a quick chat about that. And we're going to talk about organic versus forced NFT communities, which will more be about people entering the NFT space and how a lot of the public are reacting to it and how maybe we think they should be reacting and things like that. So that's going to be really interesting to talk about, but we'll do that one at the end. So firstly, the macro trend screams NFTs. Now, many gaming companies are obviously entering the NFT and metaverse, right? But is it all just a big publicity play for a lot of these people, or do you think a lot of these companies genuinely see this as the future of the world and the future of gaming? So, Eleanor, coming from a bit of a finance background, I think you're seeing a lot of companies jump into crypto, or a lot of banks jump into crypto. Does this go forward into NFTs as well?
I think it's super new, but just last week we had JP Morgan starting on the metaverse through the division Onyx. So I think just 2 days the actual head of this resigned, but it says a lot. Like JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, the guys that say Bitcoin will go to zero, but the company still trade them. Now I think they are in Decentraland and they got their Onyx stand, and you can go there and just interact, and they hope to actually get some clients like that. So I think it's really like what Visa did with CryptoPunk. It's not, they don't see that as the future, but they want to try and be there just in case. And yeah, I think they slowly get in. And what is funny is on the NFT side, it's not just the company, but we see a lot of rejection by normal player and average people on Twitter that just complain about an actor Eminem getting an ape, and it feels exactly like bankers against DeFi and crypto last year or before. I think that they'll just turn around. But yeah, companies are not fully inside that now, especially like in finance, but they're definitely looking at it. Like the JP Morgan thing is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard to. Crypto seems to change every single, like if you look at crypto as a brand new thing in 12 months, it looks practically different. You can't recognize it. And I think NFTs are going to be a big part of that. I think in 12 months, we'll look back and be like, oh, wait, people didn't like NFTs once upon a time. What do you reckon, Kyle? Do you reckon a lot of the gaming companies are entering it for all the right reasons?
It's kind of the same sentiment there, is they want to kind of get a part of all this hype and attention, and definitely capitalize on that whole metaverse play and that marketing aspect of it. And I think some of them will definitely do like the bare minimum just to say, hey, we're here, look at our we're being a part of this metaverse too, kind of thing. Like I think that will definitely be something, definitely that's going to happen for sure. And we're already kind of seeing that. So I think that that's going to be the case, where if you look at, Illuvium, where it's completely different, like it's organically grown in the ecosystem. The community is organic. The founders like come from this ecosystem, and it's quite different on the flip side of that. So I definitely see, this being the gaming being the future for sure. And yeah, just like the founder of Twitch, the ex-founder, I guess, or he doesn't work there anymore, but who founded Twitch, he's really bullish on NFTs in general. So
Yeah, I think Illuvium also has one of the primary marketers of Twitch moved over to the Illuvium team, and he's on their marketing team. I know we haven't seen a lot of marketing yet, but Twitch obviously did a very good job in its early days in promoting its platform and taking a lot of that market share, or sharing a lot of that market share with YouTube, which, I mean, YouTube has monopolized this space quite a bit if we ignore TikTok for a second. So it's a pretty big deal to have someone like that on the team. What do you reckon, Kay? Where do you think NFTs are heading?
I agree with Eleanor and Kyle. I believe that at the moment, yes, a lot of companies are going in as a more speculative play, just because if you look at the data, for the first time ever, NFTs have been surpassing Bitcoin in terms of Google searches. And we haven't seen that before happen. And companies are picking up on that, keywords for SEO, such as, using the word metaverse, that gets you, a lot of traction instantly, just if you throw that word in there. And if you look at the barrier to entry is quite low. If we take the JP Morgan example, it's not a huge cost for them to set up, a property on some land in Decentraland. It's not, for the size that JP Morgan is, it's tiny. So yeah, barrier to entry is not that high. A lot of companies, depending on how they want to get into it, they can either just do a one-off kind of NFT collection, like we've seen with some games. A company called Chaosium did that on Vivi, and they're a gaming company, but tabletop-based gaming. Or you might see actual companies who have traditionally made games, such as Ubisoft, and they will try and get into NFTs by introducing NFTs to their audience, which we tend to see a lot more resistance in. But it's a new technology. There's always going to be a lot of people who are kind of against change, or they just don't like NFTs in general, which is cool as well. I think we're going to start to see a cool, interesting shift with some companies into NFTs.
I'd love to know what you guys think, though. Do you think that they'll start off slow, or they'll jump into the deep end? So I know a lot of us, if you take the Illuvium context, right, believe NFTs are going to be a part of the game itself quite heavily. Do you think a company like Ubisoft is more just going to have some collections on the side, kind of more about the company and separate from the games themselves? Or do you reckon they're going to incorporate NFTs into the actual game to add features and things like that? What do you reckon, Kyle?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
No, that's right. Do you think NFTs are going to be more on the side, like little collections based on some of their Ubisoft games and things, or do you think they're going to jump straight into the deep end and their games are going to have NFTs inside of them straight away? Do you think they'll take it off slow?
Some companies will approach it different. I think, as like Hello K was saying, some will try to enter the NFT space, and I think kind of the right way to approach it might be just more on the educational side first, and release it in small waves, and say like, oh yeah, this is what you can do with your NFTs, by the way. And then I think that's maybe the approach that these bigger companies will take. I don't think they're just gonna like release this giant game, or that's like, surprise, here's this giant NFT game, like Illuvium. They're not going to do that, I don't think. Not until they're well established in the space. It's, socially accepted amongst gamers and things like that. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I think it's all shaping up really interesting, but really only time will tell. There's a lot of companies jumping in, and many of them might even wait 2 or 3 years until they do anything that we see.
I think many will do it only half the way. So yeah, they might have some collection on the side extra, but I doubt they'll do a game where you can get your NFT like in Illuvium and then keep using them in the next game. I think that's where they'll give some NFT and you can play them maybe in one game, and maybe you can even sell them, etc. and they're real NFTs. But I really don't see them trading and adding on another game where you can reuse all your Pokemon from the previous game. It's going to be a new Pokemon game, and you'll need to get the new Pokemon from that specific game. And that's what is missing on the kind of metaverse and real utility of this NFT, right? Because if you can really use your Illuvials from one game to the others, it's just a really different experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've had that experience with Pokemon a lot in the past, because I have Pokemon Home, so you can bring all your Pokemon forwards with you into the future games. And I know a lot of people probably don't use it or haven't played Pokemon as much as myself. But I've got a lot of Pokemon from 10, 15 years ago when I was a lot younger, and I've brought a lot of them up with me. And so playing with those Pokemon that you had when you were a kid is a pretty big deal. And I think Pokemon will not be the only one now. I think you're going to see this a lot more in the future. It's going to be quite interesting.
But you cannot use your Pokemon from Pokemon Home on Pokemon Go, right?
No.
That's the point. No. Like, it's the idea that when it will be really, really an NFT that represent Pikachu or Atlas, and you can just use it everywhere, it's going to be really different. And I think companies, because even of the licensing way it works, right? Pokemon Go is not developed by Pokemon. It just got the license. And it's going to be, something that will block them to do this real metaverse thing where you can actually use from one game to another.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we'll quickly move this on to Illuvium. We can all accept that it will be the first AAA game on the blockchain, unless someone snuck in the title by some technicality or something that I haven't heard of. Do you think that Illuvium, I know this is a bit of a loaded question, but do you think Illuvium has the power behind it to change a lot of the opinions of gamers and things like that? Do you think it has, are the graphics enough, or do many other things need to help drive the mass adoption of the Illuvium metaverse and then the gaming metaverses as a whole? What do you reckon, Kay? I know this is a lot.
So just for context, so last October I went to it was the Dubai Expo, the blockchain one. So CZ Binance was there as well. Actually, it was interesting. And I went around and I kind of visited a lot of the projects there. We were exhibiting Kaleidoscope there as well. And surprisingly, I saw a lot of AAA games, and they've been in development for about 2 to 3 years now, introducing NFTs. And we were basically just trying to kind of understand a little bit more about their journey, kind of, show them what we're doing, see if there was anything that we could offer or they could offer us. And I saw like, first person shooters. I saw like, strategy games, RPGs using NFTs. And they're all kind of pretty much ready to launch from what I could tell. So yeah, I think Illuvium is going to be one of the top ones for sure. I don't know when exactly they're going to have like the full rollout, if it's going to coincide with some of these other ones. So definitely Illuvium is going to be, I think, kind of the one that people pretty much know as, the AAA game for NFTs. Now, that being said, in terms of the gaming industry specifically, I mean, if you ask most gamers out there, most of them have never heard of Illuvium, unfortunately. Most of them have never heard of NFTs. They kind of know, all the mainstream stuff. Like, if you tell them about, I don't know, like an auto battler, the ones that come to mind are going to be like, team fight tactics, or like, the one that Dota did. But many of them won't have heard of Illuvium as of yet. And that's just because NFTs aren't really that well known. So I think Illuvium is going to be one of the ones where when people do start searching for NFTs and NFT gaming, I think Illuvium is going to kind of come up near the top. And if it's a similar experience, which it looks like it is, to kind of these other games, as long as the experience is familiar, then yeah, it makes sense. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, like Kyle alluded to earlier, like education. And the main point that I've seen with a lot of these gamers is they don't quite understand that the point of the NFTs is to kind of allow them to monetize their own hard work and effort. Like, many of us have probably played games where we've grinded on the game, got to like level 100, and we're like, what can I do with my account? It's my account. And some people do try and like sell accounts on eBay and things, but it's messy and it's not really, true transfer of ownership. You're just transferring your account details to someone else. So actually transferring like individual assets from one person to another and having that kind of true ownership, I think that is what a lot of these gamers, once they understand like that's what it is, then they're going to be more on board. And I feel that Illuvium, if they offer some, which I believe they will, if they offer some kind of mechanic where gamers can kind of farm items, craft them, create them, and then sell them on a market, kind of essentially creating an economy, then yeah, I think a lot of these gamers, traditional gamers, will get on board with Illuvium and the wider NFT gaming space in general.
I think the interesting part about it too is that they have a lot of that crafting elements and things. They have, I would say, up to a dozen different ways to play. This is more in terms of a dozen different ways to earn in the game, I think. But I think a lot of these gameplay loops and things are a lot simpler, and you'll see your traditional gamers latch onto stuff like that. Then you'll have your crypto investors and things like that latch onto the more lucrative parts of the game, in a sense. I think there'll be a bit of that split, but it's really good that it caters to as many as possible. What do you reckon, Kyle?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, as far as what Kay was saying, I agree with his sentiment as well. Now I do think Illuvium's going to be one of those like Axie type. It's going to pull an Axie where, it's going to shoot up there pretty high. And I think long term, bull run, I think, that's going to it's just everything culminating together. I think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, as far as in game, gamers coming over to the space and playing Illuvium, I think they'll find their own game mode that suits them best. And you'll have the whales and the land side, Illuvium Zero mining stuff over there. So yeah.
Do you think it'll help drive mass adoption if it doesn't Axie?
Yeah, so I think once that happens, the game's released, and there's hype and excitement. We're gonna see a lot of content creators cover Illuvium, and then I think that's gonna cause like media to cover as well, or both, obviously. And I think that's gonna drive a lot of attention. Now, as far as mainstream goes, that Illuvium doing their marketing, the esports tournament, I think that's going to definitely help in terms of mass adoption for sure. When gamers, all it takes is like one big, mainstream streamer to play Illuvium or a pro or a big esports organization to kind of get people's ideas wrapped around this. And, I think that can definitely help for sure.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Eleanor? Where do you see this going?
I think for Illuvium, even if they don't get what an NFT are and are not interested in this, if the game is fun and amazing, as Kieran explained everywhere, and it's so much better on graphic and strategies and TFT, then that's the first component you need to get mainstream in. Like, there's no way Axie can become mainstream the way it was, or it's just something I cannot play for more than a few hours and then I'm out. So if the game is good, it's the first condition. And the second one is what Kyle just mentioned, which is the esport competition. When they'll say there's 50 million to win, then there'll be so many spotlight from the community, from the Twitch streamer, from the pro player. And then just because the money will be like with Fortnite at some point, it was everywhere. Oh, this guy won $1 million playing video game. They like that line, that kind of story. So when this team won 20 million and this solo player won 5 and blah, 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 this will just be the second component we need. First, we need a good game. And second, we need that. And then the fact that there is NFT is just a plus that people will understand later on, oh, well, I won this tournament. Maybe I got some million, but I also have this crown or badge that represent what I won, which I can keep or I can sell, and it's even more money, and on and on. But yeah, I don't think NFT will be what really matters for mainstream. It's going to be those two other points.
Yeah. I think as long as the game is good, it's going to be very important. I think graphically, obviously, they've got what they need. I think we can all agree on that for the most part. The open world and like running around capturing alluvials and stuff gameplay, I think will be a bit more basic than some people expect. But personally, I think what's more important and what they are obviously focusing on is the auto battler and their competitive setup. And I think that's what drives mass adoption for a lot of these things. Like if you talk about mass adoption, you've got your battle royale, you've got your MOBA like League of Legends. And you've got like your card games like Hearthstone, which have all seen mass adoption in the past. And you'll notice that they all have pretty much one set game mode where the map is very static and things like that. And it's the competitive and replayability and multiplayer aspects of the game that have driven their mass adoption, that have driven their getting a lot of players into the game to play it. So I think if they can get that right, and from the hype that Kieran's putting out, it seems like they have, I think we're in for a treat.
Yeah, totally. And I think too, they've done a great job. Obviously, like you said, the visual art, both on NFT side and in game. And I think the lore and what they've done on the story side is something to note as well. That's always like low key, it gets people excited. It's like this immersive universe that you're in, this planet. And I think that's cool. You see all these other games, Star Citizen or whatever the case may be, or it's like this immersive experience, and that really hypes gamers up too. When you can really immerse in a game, I think that's where the word of mouth type of thing really starts to play out. Then you have gamers who are NFT savvy that tell maybe their friends that aren't NFT savvy, like, hey, you got to play this game. Like, this is just amazing. And I think a lot of that will happen, for the foreseeable future, as long as obviously the game being amazing and all that stuff factors in for sure. So
yeah, there's so much to be excited for, there's so much to wait for. It's definitely going to be really interesting. So we're going to go on to our last topic here, and we're going to talk about organic versus forced NFT gaming communities. All right, so any companies are trying to force NFTs on their communities who aren't really involved with crypto, or really versed in the metaverse or Web 3.0. And I think Web 3.0 is going to be my big point here. We're going to talk a bit more about NFTs rather than gaming per se. But so Web 3.0 gives me huge vibes of, and a lot of people have talked about this, but like the internet. Everyone was extremely hesitant to get onto the internet. Those that didn't obviously had a lot of trouble afterwards. Let's put it that way. So do you think many companies are trying to force this? Do you think there is such thing as organic versus forced growth in NFTs? What do you reckon, Kay?
So in terms of like, so this is kind of like how I would break it down, right? So there are kind of like two main types of existing institutions. So you have kind of traditional companies that make games and whatnot, and then you've got NFT companies, right? And now what you're going to see is you're going to see different sizes of them. So you're going to see large traditional companies and small traditional companies, and large NFT companies, small NFT companies. So we'll break it down into those four kind of individual entities. So the way that I see it's going to work, and I've seen it happening already, I'm sure Kyle has already seen this as well, is with the traditional companies exploring NFTs, they tend to get a lot of lashback from their audiences, because their audiences never got into them for NFTs. They got into them for, these, whatever product it is, games and stuff that they produce. Whereas with the NFT companies, obviously people got into those for the NFTs because they are traditionally NFT companies. So firstly is identifying the two different audiences. Now, with the larger companies, it's actually okay for them to kind of, in a way, force NFTs on their audience, because they're typically large conglomerates that have various different revenue streams. I'll use a good example, Marvel. Marvel isn't reliant on just, NFTs. They've got comics, TV shows, films, etc. Like, it doesn't matter if they lose a bit of sales because people hate NFTs. It's fine for them. Now, where we see a difference is when traditional smaller companies try and push NFTs. And like I said earlier, I don't know if I mentioned it here, but there's a smaller gaming company called Chaosium, and they had to push, or they didn't push it, but they introduced NFTs. Now, because like 90% of their, or probably more than that, of their audience are traditional tabletop gaming players who never got into NFTs, they had this huge lashback, and Chaosium had to actually cancel, well, not cancel, but like suspend all their NFTs because of this lashback, because they can't afford to take the boycotting that they were getting. Now, on the NFT company side, it's okay, because a lot of these companies, the NFT companies that create games, so their audience is already used to the notion of NFTs. Are they going to be interested in playing the games, or are they just purely interested in buying and holding NFTs because they think the value is going to go up? Because they're not gamers, they're quote unquote investors. We're going to get those guys as well. So I've already seen it already. Like, there are a lot of people who, play NFT games, but they're not playing it because they like the game. And to be frank, a lot of NFT games are actually kind of crappy, but it's a way to make money, which is why they're truly in it. Now, Illuvium, if I use that as an example, I think that is going to be a game that, for me personally, is actually the type of game I like playing. It'll be enjoyable for me, but it won't be enjoyable for everyone. But people will still play it because of the monetary factor. They can make, income from it. So that's kind of like how I see it going. Like, yeah, you have to break it down into, what's traditional NFT what's traditional company, what's a NFT company, and base it by size as well.
I guess that begs the question to me, if those large NFT companies, as opposed to the large non-NFT companies, if they're getting more organic growth and the non-NFT companies are trying to force it and they're getting less growth in that sector, is there any chance of these large NFT companies kind of overtaking some of the other traditional companies in Web3? What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say, right? If Disney were to come out with an NFT-based game today, yes, some of the traditional, Disney fans are gonna, hate it. But I think, without a doubt, it would be the most popular NFT game around, just because Disney overshadows like so many brands. Even if they have to lose a few of the traditional followers, I'm confident like pretty much the majority of people in NFTs would just jump on that, myself included. But again, it depends on the size of the company and, like how popular the IP and brand is. I do believe that there will be, when it comes to gaming, some NFT companies surpassing some of the kind of like middle-sized studios. That I think is going to happen for sure. And I think once we start to popularize it through platforms such as Twitch and whatnot, those kind of partnerships with, esports, that's going to be critical. That's where we're going to start to see some of these NFT-based gaming companies start to take off.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Kyle?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, and I think timing is crucial for these companies. When you look at a traditional or like an NFT based community, there's always, you know, a tight knit group, organic, and typically, crypto NFT people tend to have more higher net worths in general. So I see that as like a big plus and a bonus, or
Okay.
not to say game, the traditional like non NFT communities, maybe not so much, or as much. I guess that's more of it. I know I'm using a broad brush, but um, I could see the NFT based gaming companies for sure, like Illuvium, the timing and them dropping a game in the near future being, super important. And I think that when it comes to the non NFT companies, I think that those communities, I think they might struggle at first, depending on when. But like we've seen with Ubisoft, there's a lot of backlash there, and maybe they aren't going to be as successful as an Illuvium. Whereas Illuvium, they've built their community from the ground up, and I think we may see more success in a company like Illuvium in the short term. But yeah, as Kay said, like it depends on the brand, of course, and the IP that these companies bring to the table. They like if Disney dropped a game, that would be massively, there's be massive attention around that. Um, but I think when you're in terms of communities go, it's hard to compete with a organically grown audience with that has potentially a lot of more money than the non NFT based game. So lots of factors to consider. I agree a lot with Kay on that as well, and then those other various factors that I mentioned as well. So
Yeah. There's a lot to consider. I think the other thing we should think about is once those organic NFT companies, let's say, create mass adoption, then maybe the other companies that are trying to get into it will have more success. What do you reckon, Illuminor?
I don't know. So first, I haven't seen anybody really forcing NFT yet, right? Marvel was mentioned. Marvel is not forcing anything. They're just creating a new market and selling in this new market. And the actual audience playing whatever or looking at any other Marvel things are not forced to start using NFTs. So we'll see. I think, yeah, they'll be testing the water. As for NFT company or just a crypto company buying others, for instance, since Illuvium basically recreated everything they need and will be launched alone, I don't know if they got any interest in really buying out another studio of the old world. Maybe if there is another crypto game, it would make sense. But for something that is older from the previous kind of gaming, I'm not sure there's a lot of upside. Now, what I'm really looking for is some more acquisition from the crypto world into the non-crypto world. And we had some, but I think we'll have more. One is Binance. I got a chunk of Forb. And I always got these stories they told me in India where so Tata Motors, when they wanted to get into cars, went to Jaguar, and they basically wanted help from them and have an alliance, and Jaguar just pushed them back. And then after a few years, Tata Motor bought Jaguar, and now it's Indian. And I'm just looking for the day, Binance will buy JP Morgan or something like that. That's that's what I'll find really fun. But I think something like that might happen, right? It would make a lot of sense for Binance to become some kind of banks or some other big entity to get another one. But yeah, I don't have really a view on false NFTs because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of these companies can launch NFTs in parallel with their already existing markets. And really, the only backlash that has happened is when they're announcing that they're buying companies or becoming a part of the metaverse. And as we talked about that buzzword before, that's most likely just to get clicks. It doesn't mean that they're going to launch NFTs in their main structure, or at least not straight away. So it's definitely some really interesting points of view to look at here about kind of where this is all going. And I'm very excited, and you guys can see that I tried to build a show around this sort of topic exactly. So I think there's going to be a lot more to say on this in the future for sure. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say before we jump into a Q&A?
No, just I think that Illuvium obviously has set themselves up for success, just based on the quick time they've turned the game around, and I think that's really important. I actually, in my video I just dropped, Gary V, he actually talks about the very first, being the very first of anything. He was talking about Zuckerberg being the very first, you know, Facebook, the very first Google, and why that he was actually talking about the NFT space when he was drawing that parallel. And when I see Illuvium, I'm seeing the very first, you know, AAA game that has, you know, they put a lot of work into. And I think it's important to notate that not only now, but in the future, when, you know, 5 years down the road, where we're here still and we still have our alluvials from, you know, Gen 1 or the first set. So yeah.
I think there's a few ways I like to look at that sort of thing too. Like, I like to try and look at the first of genres in general. So you've got the first MOBA was Dota, right? I think that was the first MOBA, the first major one. But then somehow League of Legends came in and took a lot of that popularity. Now, I think that might have been as simple as it was more accessible. I think Dota originally was a mod from World of Warcraft, or no, not Warcraft, right? And League of Legends came in as a free platform that was very easy to download and very easy to play. And it was a lot more tangible to most people. I always equated it to being a lot simpler in many ways. And they were the first MOBA, or the first in that genre, that was simple, easy to play and do, and all the rest of it, right? So you could see Illuvium, if they can pull a lot of that off, and they'll be the first AAA, as Kyle just said. I think that could be a big deal moving forward. So I'm definitely excited for that. I also really wanted to quickly, what was I going to say? I had something in my head. Firstly, I want to say, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. None of us are. This is not financial advice. So please always do your own research on any of this sort of stuff. And that's what I was going to say. All of these guys' links are in the description down below. If you're just jumping onto the stream now, definitely go and chuck them a sub and a like. Kyle's video just dropped, or it's about to. So definitely go and watch that. I'm definitely going to watch it, probably in the car on the way to work or whatever. It's going to be an awesome watch. It's going to talk about Gary V. Gary V knows a lot of stuff. It's going to be awesome. Yes. Did you guys want to plug anything else before we jump into the Q&A?
Probably just a quick one, actually. You know, I've been, you know, an avid gamer for a long time. You know, I got into blockchain, NFTs, etc. One interesting thing, unlike other industries, which, you know, kind of integrate blockchain a bit more deeply, specifically the financial sector, with gaming. So this is just not, you know, specific to one company, but just in general. If you want to work as a game developer in, you know, NFT gaming, you don't actually need to know anything about blockchain. I've looked at many kind of jobs, and I kind of understand how it works. So I just wanted to ask as an open question, like, why do you guys think that is?
So your question was?
So to be a game dev in an NFT gaming based company, you don't need to know, to develop the games, you don't need to know anything about blockchain.
Yeah, that's normal, right? So basically, you'll have different person in the team. So I don't know if you're thinking of a game that would be like JavaScript based on the browser or something more on an app. But anyway, as a game developer, you'll have some tools that you'll just invoke for different things. And those tools might be done by the Solidity team, right? So you'll have something like, I don't know, duplicate hero. And if something happened in the game and you just design all the game, you just invoke duplicate heroes and it will create another NFT. And then to know how many heroes you have, if you want to look at that from the blockchain, you'll just have another function that is done by the other team that does that, right? And even in the game, and that's something Illuvium has been great at showing. I think it's amazing for something that is interested in, somebody interested in video game, is they really show how you got, you know, the guys that do the graphic, the guys that do the animation of the graphic, the people that do the full environment, the people that assemble them. And this is Grand Team. It's not our own team. Our own team is the actual coding side, which need to, well, have the graphics of the character work and adapt inclination based on how the ground is, and have the different movement that do not clash with some other graphic, etc. So you got all those different groups. At the end of the day, it's going to be a real game, but you'll need, and that's something that Aaron mentioned a lot also, you'll need this constant interaction with the actual blockchain side, so that well, first you probably have a lot of questions, but to make it really crypto native and to have all those interactions, they'll just need to interact all the time. But you don't need to actually work on the Solidity code yourself.
Yeah, that I generally agree with that as well. I mean, the main reason I proposed this question is, Kyle and I, we know like the the ex lead content creator of Vivi, and he always had this very firm stance that so many NFT games out there they can accomplish what they're trying to do without the NFTs. And I generally I agreed with that as well. And the kind of thing that I was getting at is, unlike other industries, the kind of, I guess, the technology hasn't evolved enough yet where NFTs can truly be from a very low level viewpoint, that truly integrate into the kind of ecosystem. Because for most games, the NFTs, they kind of function as more of let's call it a key, and holding that NFT unlocks the asset within the game. But you don't necessarily, when you design the game, that asset doesn't have to be unlocked via an NFT. It can be unlocked via many different ways. It can be unlocked with a kind of a little, what is it called, like a promotional code or QR code, or you can unlock it via, depending on, when your account was created, they can use that metadata. The asset doesn't have to be unlocked via holding the NFT, and that's a key point. So that's where I think the point of companies, where it feels like they're forcing NFTs on you, it's like a lot of their users, they feel like what's being offered to them can be offered to them without the need to integrate NFTs. They still get the same experience. So, the same things that they want to do. So that's kind of like from the viewpoint of a lot of these, let's call them mainstream users.
It's a lot also because most NFT are fake and they're not really on the blockchain, etc. The actual idea of the NFT, if they are really well implemented in Illuvium, etc., is, well, you might be starting tomorrow, or your son will be starting in 15 years, and you just transfer a few Atlas and Illuvials to him, and you can just transfer whatever you want to him outside of the game. You can just do it on the blockchain if you want. And then you can start working and playing with that because, well, you actually own them and you could transfer them, and now he will own them and he can use them. And in most games right now, at least those I looked at that are already there, if you transfer something, like in PvE, we used to be like that. If you transfer something outside of the game, they'll it won't work because everything is managed by their server behind the scene. So that's what is missing still.
Yeah, I think decentralization is a pretty big part of this, but really, like, your alluvials are pretty useless in every single other metaverse, and there's not really a way to go about that. And I think Kieran's been pretty vocal about how metaverses, that's just how they're going to work in the future. Interoperability between everything doesn't make any sense. But I think you're right. I think it's more about the NFT itself being a token and being able to send that to someone, even if you can't see it in a different game. It being possible to do that, I think, is important in itself.
But that's not just that. Like, for instance, not every game will implement Ramfire, so you can see your Ramfire in the game. Right? You got Kaleidoscope that might do that, etc. But not everybody will just dedicate the time to just have that. Now, the token exists, and that's the idea of Crypto Dragon. It's exactly this. I could create a game tomorrow where, to get point, you need to kill your Illuvials in my game, and they just go in another contract. And then you can imagine game doing vampire attack like that. Hey, come in my game, for every Atlas you have or every Empire you have, I'll give you something else. So also.
Yeah, I mean, giving them the option to do that is certainly interesting. I mean, yeah, ultimately, if it's a contract that works, like, if it's a contract, then you should be able to give someone the power to sign something and do something with that contract. I mean, I'm no Solidity dev, but that's kind of my understanding of it. What do you reckon about all that, Kyle?
Well, just going back to what they were saying, gamers like realizing, and just that education, I think, is going to be key. As Kay said, like, why would I need an NFT like to unlock this when you could just give it to me, or I could pay a $5, $20 paywall. So I think the key thing is going to be the understanding of utility factoring into that, and the collectability side as well, because that's what the macro NFT is. People love the flex, and I think when you combine that, the social currency side, with gaming, I think that's when it becomes kind of real. And it's like, oh, okay, now I own this, like for Fortnite. Now I own this John Wick skin from season 1. Like, okay, now I can sell this for like $18,000. Then I think it becomes real. But I think a lot of that's going to be education on that end. But
yeah, definitely. And I think Hello K was talking about the ways that you have your NFTs. Well, a lot of games, they wouldn't need NFTs and they'd be pretty much the same game. That's kind of how I understand it. And I think a good example is probably CSGO. They've had, let's say, NFT type mechanics forever. You can sell things on their open marketplace on Steam, all your skins and things between players. I mean, that's kind of the idea of all this. Obviously, they're not NFTs, but that's the idea of this. I think Illuvium does have a slight edge where its tokenomics are something that they need the token for, because you can't really do that any other way. You can't really do that on the traditional stock market with their revenue distribution and things. So that is a clear reason to have the token that wouldn't work in any other system, okay? In terms of regulation, at least, that'd be very painful.
yeah, I mean, imagine owning V-Bucks season 1 Fortnite, and then you get that revenue distribution. Like, that would be insane, but obviously it's not possible with Fortnite.
No, it's not possible unless you use a cryptocurrency. So I think they've already started that backing really well. And I think the NFTs do play an integral role. You could maybe say some areas of it didn't need NFTs or whatever, but since it all connects directly to this revenue distribution and the token and something that is necessary for the game, I think it is one of those first games where NFTs are important to make the game work, or to make the idea of the game work.
Yeah. And I think on the macro, like zooming way out on the whole NFT space in general, is like when they see like their favorite influencer or celebrity, let's say like Snoop Dogg, interacting in the quote unquote metaverse, or just immersing himself in the NFT space, then I think it's going to click for, the younger crowd or gamers, and being like, okay, well, now my celebrity is like messing with NFTs. Like, what can I do right now that I know about? Oh, games. I know a lot about games. Oh, there just so happens to be a game that does NFTs. I might want to learn more about that. And I think we're going to see that play out, as things progress.
Yeah, definitely.
I completely forgot I was going to add one other small thing. Just with the point of traditional companies and newer NFT companies, one thing that we have to always remember is a lot of these traditional companies, they've survived the test of time. They've remained relevant throughout the years, like Ubisoft, Nintendo, etc. A lot of these newer NFT companies, they're being very heavily kind of bolstered by the NFT hype in general. So a lot of these games, if they were to launch with nothing to do with NFTs, let's just say I'll use Axie Infinity as an example. If Axie were to have launched as a standalone game with nothing to do with NFTs, I don't think it would have done anywhere near as well as it did. And I can see that with a lot of NFT-based games. So I think one thing that we're going to start to see is, as the hype around NFTs starts to die down, the whole speculative nature of it, the ones that will survive are the ones that will have done well as standalone games on their own. Because we've seen, there was, I think it was like 10 years ago, when kind of the social video sharing thing hype was like really big. So we had loads of copies of like Snapchat, Instagram. Like there was one called, I think it was Vine, and that one just died. Like, it was huge.
I remember that one.
Everyone was using it. It was like going to be the, the Snapchat killer, the Instagram killer. And now it's like pretty much dead. So, I think when we look beyond the hype, I think we have to look at the product for the product without the NFT aspect, and just think, is this going to be one that people will continue to be interested in, like, in years to come?
Yeah. I like, the team's approach on Illuvium, and I interviewed Kieran the other day, and him saying like, we're trying to build this into a franchise. And it kind of shows how like long-term thinking they are, and it's not only just the game, but in every aspect of IRL and collecting and game and all that. So
Yeah, I think they're building a game first and money making setup second. So let's hope that works out well. So our first question today comes from Koi Skia. I definitely pronounced that wrong. So they've said, and I quote, "Can you explain briefly the VV purpose? I didn't get it fully."
Kay's
So
good
one of you
at
guys-
explanations.
Yeah. So VV, the idea is basically they went into NFTs like very, very, very early. They were one of the first to hit the market because the idea is a lot of people, they love brands like Marvel, Disney, etc., and they wanted to bring true ownership to IP based around these brands. So they kind of pioneered the NFT space at the start. Now, with a lot of these bigger brands, they did approach them at the start, and they absolutely they're like, blockchain's a scam. I don't want to get involved in this Bitcoin stuff. Like quite traditional minded as they are. But now they're opening up more to it. And the whole idea of VV initially was just to kind of collect things of brands that you enjoy. It's it's taking real life collectibles like Kyle's comic in the background, or if I pull out this Iron Man Funko Pop, it's basically bringing this into an entirely different format, which is digital. And so that's basically the initial purpose. I mean, now they're starting to realize, it's not the only way forward. That's why they're exploring the metaverse, they're creating the VVverse. They're adding layers of gamification on top. And really, it comes down to what do their licensors also want. So Marvel, they wanted to do comics, so they introduced NFT comics. And, they're just going to keep building up like that. So I think it's like, it's not just something that VV as a standalone company is trying to do. I think they're getting a lot of influence from their licensors because many of them are very big companies in their own right, like Disney. So yeah, that's kind of like the main purpose is started off as a collectible app, and now it's becoming a bit more than a collectibles app.
Kyle, did you have anything to add to that? What's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of buying those NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Like my shelf back here, it can only hold so many collectibles. And the natural progression of everything is just to go digital. And NFTs, when you can verify your collectible online, like that is yours. I could go to Christie's auction house and go sell that collectible for X amount of money if I wanted to, or any, collectibles auction house. But before, this wasn't previously really, I mean, I could take my Pokemon card, but I would risk the damage. I'd risk a lot, right? And as Kay said, these NFTs, they're building utilities into them, the ability to rent them out, and really the very first collectible that's huge in the NFT space, as Gary said, and just recently as well. When you're the first this or the first XYZ, it's like asking a comic book collector, why would you collect that comic? It's because I like it. I like the superhero. I like that it's iconic. I like that I can read it. There's many factors, right? It's not just, hey, I love it to just collect it, but I can actually broadcast this in augmented reality. I actually had my 4-year-old daughter just the other day. I was just sitting there on the couch and she goes, "Daddy, where's my Elsa at?" And I actually own one of the Elsas on VV. And I was like, she's 4 years old. Like I've showed it to her one time and she remembered that. And so I pulled my phone out, broadcasted it in AR, and we were looking at the dress and this big, beautiful statue. Like those things you can't replace. Like if I sold the Elsa, I couldn't do that. I couldn't share those memories. And I don't know, there's all kinds of utility just on the AR side, taking pictures with a Walt and Mickey statue. Like that's just insane. Like, you can broadcast that anywhere, and there's only 4,000 of those in the world. Like that's huge, and as Kay mentioned, the added utility to that platform is going to be huge, and I believe they're going to do it. So
yeah, there's a lot of exciting things in crypto in general, for sure. Another question is coming from Retribution, and he asks that will Illuvitars be included in revenue distribution? And if so, when someone buys, for example, a gold or diamond box, will the ETH that they use to pay for them go to stakers? In simple, the answer is yes. It will go to stakers. If we're going to look at how much goes to stakers, I could run a quick experiment. Do you want to talk about it for a second, Eleanor, while I do this?
Yeah, if you want. So basically, it was answer, right? So anything you buy in Illuvium, in Ethereum, will go to the stakers. Well, except when you buy another, like something from another player. So there's two type of interaction, right? Either you buy from the DAO, basically from Illuvium, and then everything goes to the stakers, or you buy from another person. And in such case, there is a fee. I think it was mentioned at some point 3%. Another time I saw 5%. That will go to the DAO. And if we are on IMX, then there's like 1 or 2% that of these that will go to IMX, and that's how we have the free transaction. Now, the Illuvita, you can also buy them with SILV or whatever will be the new SILV. SILV, the escrow. Yeah, the number 2, don't buy the first one. So we're hoping to have the new SILV in a few weeks, I guess, probably in March. And
actually,
then you can
probably the end of this week.
What?
Yeah, probably before Monday we should have it.
Really?
That's what Aaron was saying.
Where does that come from?
That Aaron said it in the Discord, in like general chat.
Okay, well, I wouldn't mind. Like, I want to see my money back. But
I mean, there's no guarantee for anyone that's watching, obviously. But I'm very hopeful. He's been saying it's coming soon, often, and I think they're just getting the last couple of audits pretty much confirmed. But it seems like way sooner than we think SILV is going to be here, and then V2 maybe even before March or very early March. So that's exciting.
Okay, cool. Well, basically, the audit are done, right? That's something that was said. The audit by the audit companies are done, but then they were waiting for Samsung, which is a really, really cool, famous explode finder guy. He has a blog where he explains the stuff he found, which is cool. And they're waiting for him, and it's just taking the time he needs to review everything and try to think of how he could attack that. And at some point, he will say, well, I don't have idea anymore. I think you're safe. So, yeah, but well, as we'll have those new SILV, which are supposed to come with another name, well, you will be able to buy Illuvita with that too. So this obviously will not go to the stackers. Instead, it will just be burned. Yep. So that's for the Illuvita. And actually, I was not interested at all in the Illuvita. And the video from Nijav from last time actually got me interested. And something, I don't know if you saw that on the Lens, there've been some update from Johnny, etc. on how they organize actual tiers revenue. And I was one of the first always saying, tier 4 sucks. I prefer to have 300 tier 1 and have liquidity, etc. But now they're trying, because they actually acknowledge that everybody is looking at them based on the revenue now and not that much on scarcity. So they did something so that every tier will produce more or less 3 times more than the previous tier. Yeah. So now maybe I want tier 4.
Yeah, they changed the fuel production structure a little bit. I'm definitely going to mess around with those numbers and make some videos on that in the future. So if you guys want to see that, don't forget to subscribe. I'm sure Kyle will do a land video soon too, I'm sure. It's a very hot topic. So yeah, what I'm saying is don't forget to subscribe to everyone here. They have some awesome content. It's going to be awesome. I'm not seeing any other major questions or anything. Is there a link between, this is from Koikeski again, is there a link between NFT and the physical object? Like maybe how Illuvium could do with their sculptures. So I think he's referring to Vivi and the things behind you, Kyle. Is there any link between the NFTs and those objects, or might there be in the future if there isn't?
Well, see, this collectible right here was put out years ago in the physical, and there was limited 5,000 of those. And then depending on how popular they were, they would do like a series 2 drop of those physicals. Well, fast forward to Vivi. Vivi did a deal with DC and then dropped this, as the first NFT on Vivi. So that's the connection there. But although in the macro NFT space, there's companies like VeChain that are connecting the dots where you can track, your physical items. But I believe that companies will, and I think with what was that artist K that was supposed to have a tandem drop that was with was it? It was the guy, the Supersize Me, Ron English.
Ron English, yeah, he's going to do the rabbit grin.
Yeah, so you get, if you're lucky enough to get a drop, then you get the physical with your NFT, and those two
Same
are
with,
like connected.
Mighty Jacks as well. So they had the Eve. So basically, what typically people have been doing in like the VV community is the physical statues. They always have like a mint number on the bottom. So like, it was like the 22nd one ever produced. And the only relation as of now is the digitals also come with a mint number. So people are trying to reach out to the community to see if they can match up their NFT version with the physical version. And what's happened is one of the licensors, they kind of picked up on this. And so one of their products became an NFT on Vivi. And so because people who purchased the NFT, they're doing this really special promotion where you basically kind of sign up with your wallet and whatnot and show which edition number your NFT is, and they will mail to you the complementary physical version with the same mint number. So you have both the physical and digital now. And I think a lot of other companies are going to start doing that. But just in terms of like, I guess, alternative ways to linking things, there are so many companies that are trying to come with like, like QR codes that link to your NFT somewhere. I think Disney kind of came up with a way to do it without NFTs, like, I think it's called like Disney Infinity or something, like the statues, and then basically brings the digital into like a game based off like a bit of hardware that you place the statue on. There are so many companies that are playing around with hardware and NFTs and kind of like mesh the physical with the digital.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So there's one game also doing that that was mentioned in the podcast we had in French, and it is, I think it's Cross the Ages, and you have the card as an NFT, but you also get the card, the physical card. If you lose the physical card, that's fine. If you lose the NFT, you actually lost the actual value. But it's interesting to see how some game now are kind of trying to tackle both. You have real and fake, real and NFT at the same time.
I think too, it's important to note, like on the physical collectible side, especially from like artists, they'll have their like special edition collectible, like as Kay mentioned, like the Mighty Jacks or some of these designer con drops from like Tristan Eaton. They'll actually have like their the special edition number on the bottom, and yeah, it's probably in the future it'll just be associated with the NFT. So.
One thing with certain L2s, for example, Mutable X, they allow basically association between NFTs. So what you can have is you can have a digital signature from the actual artist themselves associated with your NFT, and at the same time, you could have your physical signed as well. So they're kind of bringing aspects of what you would do in the physical world to the digital world. And I think digital signatures being associated, like as an NFT, being associated with your NFT, I think that's going to be a pretty cool one in the collectible space.
I think that's probably one of the biggest strengths in blockchain is verifiability. So I did an honors project several years ago for university, and I actually used Ecomi as a bit of a case study. I can't believe I didn't get in back then, which was a huge blunder. This was like when Ecomi first started. Anyways, biggest mistake of my life, clearly. I was doing a project and basically was talking about linking, and I was using pop vinyls as my other major case study, linking pop vinyls to the blockchain. I used something called tamper-proof NFT tags. Basically, it's an NFT tag that goes on the thing. You assign whatever you want to it, assign that on the blockchain or whatever. And if someone takes that off, it's got something in there that like snaps or breaks or changes the signal, and you will know if someone's taken off the NFC tag, put the NFC tag back on. It will tell you, okay? So it allowed you to securely connect these things really, really well. And that was a really interesting way to look at it. I was going somewhere else with that and I've forgotten.
I don't know, but did you guys real quick? Did you guys see the Logan Paul video where he opened that box of like it was like how much did it cost? K like
the fake Pokemon cards.
The fake Pokemon cards.
Yeah,
it cost a fortune.
I was like, they were like, no. He opened it and I was laughing. Oh, well, I felt bad, but he opened it and the fake Pokemon card packs had GI Joe cards.
GI Joe, yeah.
And it was like what $300,000 or $400,000 like quote unquote sealed Pokemon cards. And those ended up being counterfeit. And
it was apparently authenticated by what was that company that was there with them opening?
Yeah, it was like one of the like top authentication companies. Like it started with a B or something. I'm not familiar with them, but
that is actually where I was going with that. So with the blockchain, it gives you this whole next side of it, right? So if you get like let's say a physical object signed by a famous person, all right. Maybe they relate to it, maybe they don't. Maybe Mark Hamill signs your Luke Skywalker pop, right? Okay, so you get this signed by a famous person and you get a certificate of authenticity. Well, I think a lot of people might know, I don't know if you guys are aware, they suck. They're very easy to fake. They're very easy to counterfeit, all the rest of it. I think a lot of people like to take photos with the person and the thing and all the rest of it, but I use Photoshop a lot for my day job. I wouldn't find it that hard to Photoshop something like that either. So you've got this blockchain side of things where if their account is verified and it's as verified as you can get on the blockchain, that's that. There's nothing else you can say about it. If they sign something with their blockchain signature,
it's not that easy, right? Because for instance, let's have an example. You become super famous and you sign me a T-shirt, right? So then I'll go to some kind of certification place and they give me an NFT that says that's a real Scoriox. Right? That's the idea. Now I can go to somebody else and I can sign another T-shirt and then I'll show this T-shirt, the fake one. I'll have the NFT and I can sell the NFT with the T-shirt. Then I can have somebody else go and get the certificate from the original one again. So the link between the object is not that easy.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely agree. I was talking with NFTs specifically.
Yeah.
So if you have a way of them putting a signature on your NFT, I can't really think of a way to break that. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like an NFT signature on an NFT.
So like for instance, Vivi is planning to do digital signatures. That's been on, I think, their roadmap. So like, say if you had your NFT comic, you know, and you're at a Comic-Con, and let's say the actual like cover artist or maybe the ink or the writer of the comic was there, you know, potentially you could go get your comic signed in the NFT side of it on the blockchain. So it would basically increase the value of your comic. So those are some of the ways that companies are exploring. And so
I think that's definitely a big deal if people start to get onto that. So we have one last question today from Phoenix3, and we'll wrap it up after that. I think he says, will there be any benefits for possible guilds besides in Illuvium 0 where you can make cities? So firstly, I'm just going to say we're all a part of the Shiny Shards Guild on this stream. I should have mentioned that at the top, but I have the logo down there, so I was hoping it's all right. Definitely come in and have a chat. We'll all be happy to help you out and chat with you and everything as well. I'd like to call us a family there. We help each other out, learn more about the game and things in general. And yeah, it's a good time. So if you want to join, I did have an interview with Kieran recently where we discussed guilds a little bit, and he talks about guilds. I think in a different interview, it might have been in yours, Kyle, or was it in Vulcan's?
No, I don't think it was mine.
Yeah, I think it was in yours. So if you want to talk about kind of Kieran's thoughts on that.
Oh, I don't think that was my video. That must have been.
It might have been Vulcan's. I don't think it was mine either. Yeah. But he talked about guilds and how he sees them more as being a community where everyone helps each other out rather than a business. And I think when you look at a lot of guilds, the whole business structure can be quite a negative influence in the end. I don't think it's positive in the long term sometimes, because ultimately the guild needs to make money. And what happens is they siphon the money from their members and from the game, and they pull it out of the game so they can reinvest it and go to a different game and make more money that way and things like that. So I think a guild as a business structure doesn't work gigantically, but in our guild in particular, we have a lot of different content creators. So in terms of collaboration, sharing information, doing things like this show here, helping out our community, especially, as well as the overall Illuvium community, is a big deal for guilds. And I think if you want to be inside a guild, there's a really good reason to do it. If you just need help with the game, strategies and everything like that, you're going to get a lot more attention from a guild than you might in the Illuvium Discord. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I think also it's just a different Discord, so you'll have different opinion. Sometimes you have really good conversation. I'm looking at the languages also, right? In Spanish and French, a channel in Illuvium. Well, there are some conversation, and sometimes it's just nothing. Sometimes you got more movement actually in the guild, because once you just know people, moderation might be softer and that kind of thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's the initial idea of guild is like video game guild, right? I used to be in guilds in Dark Age of Camelot and gaming like that, and nobody would pay anything. It was just a structure where people would play together. You have a special chat for that, and you can trade. I think there'll probably be something like that later on, where it's a typical thing. We'll have the Illuvidex, right? And if I had a gun with a blueprint and a skin that I created, but I don't necessarily want to sell it, I could say, hey, this skin is going to be shiny shard only. And we'll all have the same pink gun or whatever. And that's the kind of thing we can do. And we can say, okay, I'm gonna put it for sale for very little in 3, 2, 1, and then you can buy it. So yeah, that'll be that kind of thing. But it's mostly about helping each other.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, if we have nothing more to touch on today, then we might wrap it up. It's getting a bit late. I have to head off to work soon, obviously. So yeah, again, huge thanks to everyone for joining me on the stream today. Huge thanks to everyone watching and everyone in the Shiny Shards Guild for supporting the stream, supporting me and all the YouTubers here. It's been a pleasure, and we'll definitely have to do it again soon. If you guys liked this time for the stream, definitely leave a comment down below. As you can see, I'm trying a few different times out to see if it works best for people and things like that, especially the guests I have on the show. I think this time works best for a few of the guests on the show today, but not for many others. So I'm trying to define a second time to have my stream on any given week, because I'd like to keep this going weekly as much as I can, get a lot of different topics in. I might change the name still. It's kind of stuck at the moment. I think I will change it. If you guys have suggestions for different names for the stream, also leave a comment. Don't forget to throw the stream a like so it can reach more people. More people can see these awesome creators, and more people can see more about Illuvium and NFT gaming in general. It's just one more step to get that mass adoption, which I think is what a lot of people want. Obviously, everyone wants it sooner rather than later. So big thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me on, and it was great to be on with everybody here. And it was the first time being on with you, Scoriox, and Lunar. And so yeah, in K, it was a pleasure. We've been, I think have we been on a stream together? I'm not really sure either. It just seems like it, because we're always in the same community.
Yeah, I think we've been on the big community ones, like the community quizzes that we organize.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you were there,
but yeah, thanks for having us on. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Likewise.
Thanks, man. And people do not know that, I think, but it was 5 a.m. for Scoriox. So have a good day, man.
It was a good morning. Good start to the day. See ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Cheers.